Hey guys, it's Curt and John with True Shot, and today we're going to be reviewing the Rock Island STK100.
Alright guys, like Curt said, we are reviewing the STK100 from Rock Island, and this is a featured pack gun. But before we go any further, Curt, what's the special message we got to give to the folks?
So, guys, be sure to stay tuned until the very end of the video. We're actually going to have a code, a secret code.
And that is going to coincide with the giveaway that's currently going on. So if you're watching this at a later date, we're sorry, giveaway's probably over by now. But if you're watching this right at launch, you got 2 weeks to enter for the giveaway. So, let's move on from that. Let's talk about the gun and how feature-packed it is. So first and foremost, let's start with the front end. As you can see, as we come up the front end, we got a lot of lightning cuts on this slide. Rock Island really nailed it when it comes to features on this gun. You've got lightning cuts, you have an optic cut, extended beaver tail, and this is a aluminum frame gun. So this is a Glock clone in the sense of the term of Glock clone. There's a lot of things that are interchangeable and there's a lot of things that aren't interchangeable with it, and that is due to patents and things like that. But internally it's very similar to a Glock, including the striker block looks almost identical to a Gen 3 Glock 17. So we got the lightning cut, you've got the optic cut on the top. Now this is cut for the Vortex optic cut.
So it is. It's cut for the Vortex Venom. It also works with the Crimson Trace CTS 1250. I think that Rock Island, in this case, I know a lot of other pistols with an optic cut. It's usually, for the RMR mount a lot of times is what you'll see. In this case, Rock Island chose to go the Vortex route. So, as you're looking at that, and if you do want to put an optic on it, that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Now, as we move into the frame, like I mentioned, it is aluminum frame. You do have very aggressive side panels, and the front panels are cut for cut with a groove to kind of give you that grip texture. It's not as aggressive to the side. I would have liked to see it more like their 1911s, a little bit more vertical cut, but I understand why they had to go with the horizontal cuts and the kind of slashing cuts on the back.
You've got that. You've also got, if you'll notice, there are pretty good slide serrations on the front and rear. It's also got the Picatinny for, if you want to mount any weapon lights or anything like that.
Right, and then during our test and evaluation, we did not put an optic on this. We used the iron sights that it comes with. And I really do like the iron sights. They're nice, they're easy to see. The beaver tail, the extended beaver tail on it as well, made it easy. I know that some people have issues with slide bite with Glocks because they tend to want to grip higher on them, which, Glocks are known for that lower bore axis, so you want to grip really high on it. The beaver tail really helped with that. Recoil impulse was great, and the trigger, it started off at like 6-7 pounds. It was a heavy trigger, and as we shot more, we actually put it on the trigger pull gauge, and we'll show you B-roll right now of the 3 trigger pulls we did on it. And the third trigger pull average of that is going to be, it's 4 pounds 2.1 ounces. So the trigger really broke in over time. It's actually a very nice trigger, but like Curt's going to bring up, there is some flaws to it.
So backing up a little bit, what I think is really interesting about the STK100 is it comes down to viewing this gun in context for what it is and what you're going to do with it. If you see a lot of other comparisons of it, people compare it to a Glock, or they call it a Glock clone. It's an aluminum frame Glock clone. That isn't true. And I think with that, you just need to know going in. So is the trigger similar to a Glock trigger? Yes and no. And what I mean by that is you don't necessarily have that crisp wall that you get. So you've got that take up and then a crisp wall and a break. It's still good, and it feels really light. It does. It feels like a 3 or 4 pound trigger. It's a little spongier. Is that good or bad? It's different, I think the other thing to really keep in mind with this, and we'll get into it a little bit more, is parts interchangeability. There are some things that you can change out. There's some things that you can't. And we'll kind of break that down as well.
The other thing that it's really featuring is, so you got the lightning cuts, you got the aluminum frame. It is a 1911 grip angle, but it also has a stainless steel guide rod. You know, take that as it is. It's a nice feature to have. So the gun itself is just packed full of features at a price point that's really affordable. So originally when this gun dropped, price point was at $699, and then the MSRP, we also saw it as low as $599 at drop, according to some of the articles we read before we kind of got into this review. Right now, as it sits, it's a $499 MSRP with a street price anywhere from $406 to $498, which makes it really attractive for somebody looking for a heavier gun for IDPA. I don't know if it's USPSA legal, but it is USPSA. Any kind of shooting competitions, and that's what they kind of recommend this as, is a shooting competition and personal protection gun. I think the recoil impulse, I would even say this is a great gun to bring out for beginners, because the recoil impulse is really nice and it has that added weight to it. So the added weight, and we'll talk about it real quick, right now as it sits unloaded, 33 ounces.
Right.
Okay, compare that to a Glock 17, same size, same frame.
I think it comes in about 17 ounces higher, I think is what it came in at.
Yeah, it's a 25. So the Glock comes in at 25 ounces. So you've got a little bit more weight behind it. But yeah, you're looking at 8 ounces, 8 ounce difference. Now, what is 8 ounces? It's half a pound.
So it is in terms of weight, because you have that metal frame. The STK100 is about 8 ounces heavier than your standard Glock 17 polymer frame, and what that translates into is a lower recoil impulse. And it is. If you're thinking about a beginner shooter, this is a great place to start.
So before we get any further, let's throw some specs up on the screen, and then we'll kind of get into our shooting impressions and the overall impressions of the gun. So Curt, we just saw the specs. We kind of talked about the features of it. It's packed full of features. Let's talk about the good first. There's good and there's bad for this gun, as there is with any gun.
Sure, and I think, I guess the way I would, again, break this down is, if you're going into this thinking, hey, I'm going to get a metal framed Glock and then customize it and trick it out and do those kinds of things, this probably isn't necessarily the best route to go. Where this gun really shines is honestly on its own. It doesn't need a lot of modification. And what you'll see in it is an aluminum frame, yes. If you look closely, you'll notice that it's two halves. Now, some people really see that as a negative, and the question is, well, why did they do that? And honestly, it comes down to price. If you wanted to machine that frame out of one piece of aluminum, you're into like a $1,200 gun now without even trying.
Well, and we're triple. If you can find it street price at $406 on the low end, $406 is the lowest we've seen. You are looking at almost triple the price.
Right.
Of or double. I'm sorry, triple the price. Triple the price on this gun compared to that. Now, the grip itself feels great. It's very comfortable. The side serrations are very good. Mm-hmm. The trigger is very good. The lightning cuts, the way it just looks good. My biggest complaints on this is I wish they went to more of a standard 1911 texture on the front and back panels. And as you can see from some of our shooting footage, we really felt it after a while. You feel it just digs wrong. But if I'm shooting this in competition, which is designed to be at, because it is a heavier gun, it's designed to be that, I wouldn't mind that. I didn't mind it as much. It did dig in. We were putting 400 or 500 rounds to the gun, so we're shooting a lot and a long time during the day. that if that's my biggest complaint, is that the way that grip texture is and feels, that can be changed. Now I can also see, like, if they decide to sell different, clamshells for it in the future, and they upgrade to a 2.0 version of this gun, that would be one of the things that I would like to see, is an upgradable clamshell, because it's held in by screws. It's held together. It's two halves held in by screws, so I can easily change it to go and get different grip texture and things like that if they offer the clamshells down the road, which I would love to see from Rock Island to offer that. I'm going to say this again, like I said with all the other guns that we've talked about. I don't like it when the rear sight gets removed. I understand why. It's a cost thing. There's not a lot of room back there. If there was a way to move the optic cut slightly forward so we can get co-witness rear and front sight, that'd be a benefit to me. Is it a deal breaker? No. But I do wish that had it. The trigger. We weren't sure. We haven't found where people have replaced it with Glock triggers. The factory trigger out of the box is nice. At 4 pounds, it's a nice trigger.
It is. It really is. I found it similar to some of the XDM triggers, so that's kind of that feel. I wish that it had a little bit crisper wall and break, but it's not bad. It's a good stock trigger. And I think the other thing, going back a little bit, when we talk about the frame and the texturing on that, we had discussions internally, and some people asked, like, on the front and back, like, why didn't they wrap that texture in, And if you look at it though, from a machining standpoint, because it is 2 halves, it's really difficult to do, because then those have to line up exact, and if they don't, you're really going to notice it. So you can kind of see in the design cues that they chose to not have it quite as aggressive in the front and back. Now, again, is it a deal breaker? No. Did we have any problems with it? No. Would I like to see, like you were talking about, kind of a clamshell design? I think that'd be awesome.
Right, and if they were to upgrade this gun to a 2.0 version or an updated version or even a secondary model, I would like to see it with, more grip texturing if possible. Multi-cut on the side. I would like to be able to have the option of running a hollow sun or something else. That being said, the Vortex Venom is not a bad optic.
Right.
The cut for it isn't bad. My biggest disappointment would be that when we got it, we have a threaded 17 barrel laying around the office. It's not interchangeable with 17 barrels. In the future, and I understand why they had to do it. In the future, if they could bring out their own version of a threaded barrel or a titanium nitride barrel or a chameleon coated barrel, something to make this gun pop a little bit more, I'd love to see that from them. I think the sky is the limit with this, where you can kind of customize it if they start coming out with accessories and things like that and getting it to where everybody kind of wants it to be. Again, I understand why they did what they did. I really like the gun, especially at the price point that we're seeing it at now. It makes sense as a handgun that I would bring to the range to train new shooters with. It's got the weight, it's got the recoil impulse. I also see it as a competition gun, and the one thing we have yet to mention is it takes Glock mags.
It does. It actually also, I think another point to touch on is the fact that it comes with a KCI mag. I know that people have had differing opinions on that, but my understanding and our experience has been, in this gun, they run really, really well. The standard Glock mags do fit. They're a little tighter, but they still run just fine. I just think going in, you need to understand that although it has a lot of Glock parts and there's a lot of similarities to a Gen 3 Glock, that it's not fully interchangeable, So if you're going in, thinking, oh, I'm going to take this and I'm going to build up this metal frame Glock, I'm afraid you might be a little bit disappointed. All that being said, if your goal is to go buy a really solid $400 metal frame gun that's really dependable and a lot of fun to shoot, and you're just going to run it, this thing's a home run.
Well, I think what we do here is we take a step back and we think for a second. You know, if you watch gun reviews, you watch a lot of gun reviews, this thing is being compared to a Glock because internally and externally it looks like a Glock. Like you said, we need to step back and look at it as its own independent gun because it's not a Glock. It may look like a Glock, it may squeak like a Glock, it may talk like a Glock. It's not a Glock. It is an STK100. And I really do believe that, take away everything else, Rock Island really hit it out of the park with coming up with a aluminum frame striker fire gun that weighs 33 ounces that can be used in multiple different categories. So it can be a personal protection gun. It can be a carry gun. It's going to be a heavy carry gun, but it can be a carry gun. It can be a great gun to take out for new shooters. And that's where I really want to focus on this, is that the weight and the recoil impulse of it, it was easy to get back on target.
Absolutely.
The recoil impulse was very minimal. Yes, there, you complain about the small things, like the grip texture kind of rubbing on you, but after a while, you don't notice it. Once we hit past the 300 round mark and you're like, ow, that kind of bothers me a little bit, and we kept shooting it. I mean, this was one of the guns that we did a long review on. We've had this gun since March, and now it is July, and we've probably put 1,200 rounds through it, and no malfunctions. The gun's never been cleaned. Out of the box, never got cleaned.
Right.
And we ran it, and it ran reliably, and that has to stand for what Rock Island does. Rock Island makes an affordable gun that's reliable, and it runs. And I think that, if you don't look at it like everybody else does, and you don't look at it like a Glock, the Rock Island STK100 is a great gun for a number of different niches that it serves, right? So you got personal protection, recreational shooting, new shooter, bringing out somebody who hasn't shot before, competition because it is weighted. I think you got a number of things, and if you don't look at it from that perspective, you've got a great gun.
I guess the other way I would think about this is, obviously Rock Island is really well known for their, affordable 1911s. And they do amazing in that market. So if they're coming to the table with a striker-fired metal frame pistol, and this is one of their first kind of entries into that, they nailed it. This is a great gun, especially for the price point.
And like I said, if you take away a lot of the things that people have complained about and said about it, and you take that away and kind of look at it, I would be a buyer. At $409, 406 that we saw street price wise, that makes it a great option for an optics cut competition gun. Curt, what do you think?
So when we first got this in, I did what I think a lot of people do. They kind of looked at it and they compared it to a Glock and said, okay, you made an aluminum frame Glock, and I was a bit apprehensive on it, to be honest, at first. But then we went out and we shot it. And again, fully reliable. No issues whatsoever. It's a fun gun to shoot. The price point is there. And if you don't plan on trying to modify the heck out of this thing, you're good to go. Take it out of the box and go have fun.
All right, guys, so let's wrap this up. We want to thank you guys for watching all the way through. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell for notification. And here's the secret code. Curt, give them that secret code.
It is RIA 9mm. Guys, go enter the contest to win one of these STK100s.
Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.